Today we'll move through a full body practice without ever leaving the floor. Are you ready to get started? I'm sitting on a blanket. I always like a little fold of a blanket under my sit bones. It's not for comfort, it's for position. So when you prop the sit bones right against the edge of the blanket, let your pelvis tilt forward a little, it helps you sit up nice and tall. And if you've got a yoga mat, go ahead and set yourself up with that. And I'll also be referencing a strap, and we might use a block or two. Strap, you can substitute a belt or a bath towel or a scarf. So grab what you need. All right. You ready? Sit cross-legged, but if that doesn't feel good to you, some people have an issue with a hip or a knee where one leg needs to be extended out. Maybe both legs need to be extended out. You might sit up higher on something like a bolster or a stool. You could even start off in a chair if you wanted to. Yeah, so sit comfortably. Your practice won't look like my practice, won't look like most other people that are watching right now. Yeah, that's the awesome thing about yoga, is it's unique to you. All right, so as you sit comfortably, feel yourself draw those belly muscles in. Try not to lean on anything. Let the shoulders roll back and sit nice and tall. Beautiful. With the head level, close your eyes and begin to tune into your breath. Notice the feel and the sound and the sensation of each breath in and each breath out. Noticing your breath, may notice tension that you carry in your body. It often shows up in the breath. So if that's the case, begin to intentionally find a breath that's a bit fuller on the inhale. And exhaust that exhale. Breathe out until you feel like your lungs are near empty. Longer, slower, fuller breath in. Longer, slower breath out. If you know how to practice a yoga breath, begin to do that now, an Ujjayi breath. If you're new to that, imagine yourself holding a mirror and fogging that mirror up. That's the feel, the constriction in the throat. And that's the sound that accompanies this breath. Maybe you start with your mouth slightly open. It's a lot easier to learn that way. And over time, you learn how to apply that constriction of the throat to a breath that goes through the nose. Yeah, you'll know when to do that. You can practice it by breathing, exhaling through an open mouth and then closing halfway. And you can start to practice that. And the hard part is you're going to replicate that breath, that whispery ha sound, on the inhales as well. All right. So eyes are closed and begin to find that yoga breath. If you can hear that train in the background here, just picture you could feel that rumbliness underneath you as it vibrates the floor. That can be a nice relaxing feeling. Keep that breath moving nice and fully, just like that as you open your eyes. Good. Take in the space around you. You've just explored the space within you a little bit. That's what yoga does, is it explores what's within us, with an awareness of what's around us, a little less reactive maybe than we are through day-to-day life. Awesome. So take a moment to bring your arms down by your sides. If your fingertips reach the floor, that's okay. If they don't, that's okay. Turn your palms up, relax your shoulders, engage those belly muscles again. On an inhale, your breath guides the arms up. So maybe they stop halfway, maybe they go a little further, maybe they reach all the way up. Maybe is my favorite word in yoga. And then turning the palms down, exhale slowly brings the arms all the way back down. So you're looking to synchronize this movement. Inhales guiding the arms up. And exhales guiding the arms down. Inhale up. And exhale down. Notice that connection between your breath and your body. Let's try to sustain that awareness of the breath guiding the body throughout our practice today. Rest your hands on your legs, and on your next breath in, squeeze the shoulders up towards your ears. And then on an exhale, roll the shoulders back and down. So you start to find these big circles that move up and back, so that helps open across the chest, helps address any issues we may have with slouching. So we're stretching the muscles that are usually tight when we're slouchy, and we're relaxing the muscles that get overstretched. So we're reversing the effects of poor posture. Inhales up and exhales back. Let your breath be a part of it. Inhale. Good. Notice how it feels to move your shoulders. They might feel a little bit stuck. They might feel like they carry tension. Yeah, so notice those places. Sometimes they sound and feel a little bit crunchy. That's not unusual at all. Good. Check in with how that's feeling. And the next time you roll the shoulders back, let them feel like they hang out on the back of the body. So you're not forcing them there, but you're sitting tall enough for them to feel like they hang off the back of the body. Nice. On an inhale, raise the chin towards the ceiling. Find a gentle stretch through your throat. And then on an exhale, come back to a neutral head position. 2 more. Inhale, stretches the chin up. Exhale, neutral position. Inhale, stretches the chin up. Exhale, neutral position. So you might already be feeling yourself fighting the pace of this practice, wanting to go faster, to do more. That's our human nature. Part of yoga is slowing all of that down. So slow the breath down. Let the body follow that slower breath. It brings a sense of mindfulness to your practice. That's what this is all about today. Beautiful. So with the shoulders level and the head upright, you're going to tilt the head to the right so that the right ear is coming down towards the right shoulder. You might feel the left shoulder start to work its way up, so really weight that shoulder. I like to reach the left fingers out towards the floor. As the head tilts to the right, it weights that left shoulder and creates a deeper stretch through the left side of the neck. And then here, your eyes can be closed. There's not a lot to look at in this pose. You might add a little bit of a head nod. So that varies the muscles that you might feel through the left side of the neck. And be sensitive to overstretching, because that definitely happens here. Neck injuries happen in yoga, so be mindful, be sensitive. And finding a subtle stretch through the left side of your neck. And then bring the hands back to your legs. Inhale the head back to center. You might bring a little bit of movement in to stabilize the head. And then let's take that over to the other side. Left ear comes down towards the left shoulder. Maybe those right fingers reach out towards the floor. Breathing into the stretch that you find here. Eyes can be closed. You might add that little bit of a head nod. Let the right shoulder feel weighted. Gentle stretch through the right side of the neck. Breathing. And then bring the hands back to your legs. Bring the head back up to center. Bring a little movement in if that feels good to you. 2 options of where we go next. You could be sitting upright and let your exhale bring your head over to the right so the chin is aiming to be over the right shoulder. Inhales, come to center. And on your exhale, you'll just take it from one side. Next exhale, the other side. Or you might bring your chin down if your neck isn't super sensitive here and find some half neck rolls or some full neck rolls. So find some movement through your neck, whether it's neck rolls or head turns. If you've got a sensitive neck and a lot of tension in your shoulders, maybe you come back to those shoulder rolls for a little bit here. Listen to your body, right? Opening to the communication that we can have with our body. Listen to the body. Find movement that feels right to you here. That's what today's practice is about. Good. And then come on back up to sitting upright. Good job. Your hips might be getting achy here. You can stretch the legs out, give them a little shake, a little roll. You might just hug the knees in for a moment. What I'm going to challenge you to do, if you're comfortable staying cross-legged a little bit longer, is to change the cross of your legs. So whichever one you had in the front, now bring to the back. And the back one comes to the front. So you could be sitting, maybe your cross-legged looks something like this. Yeah. However your legs cross, go with it. All right. Plant the right hand on the floor and draw the left shoulder back. Use your left fingers on your left ribs. Draw that whole left side back so you start to get this opening through the left hip. You can feel it already, right? And then look up and stretch those left fingers up towards the ceiling. Weighted through that left leg. Don't let it pop up. Begin to hinge over to the right side. So finding a side stretch here through the left side. The left leg, the left hip is weighted. You're rolling the left shoulder back. If your neck's okay with looking up, look up. Your alternative is to turn your head and look down. That'll take a stretch to the other side of your neck, so it's not a bad option. Nice full breath. Maybe that supporting arm starts to scoot a little further from you as you deepen this side bend. Find that breath that we brought in at the start of practice. Full balanced breath. Beautiful. Come on up. Reach those left fingers up towards the ceiling. Press down into the left hip. Reach up through those left fingers. Big stretch to the left side. And release that arm. Awesome. So you might be feeling a little lopsided right now. Let's remedy that. Plant the left hand. Before you go anywhere, also weight the right hip and the right leg. So you need to notice the sense of connection here. And then start to roll the right shoulder back, right hand to the right ribs. Draw that whole side of your body back. Look up and reach up. And then come on over to the left side. Don't let the right leg raise. Don't let the right hip raise. See if there's room to roll that right shoulder back. Your gaze could be up underneath the right arm or down over the left shoulder. Good. Lengthening through the right side, breathing into that right side. Maybe cultivating a little appreciation for this body that's here on the yoga mat today, your body, and its abilities, its flexibility. You can tell yourself it's not there. It's there. You're doing yoga. And then come back up. Let's reach the right arm up and the left arm. Weighted through those sit bones. Lift the right ribs. Lift the left ribs. Reach those fingers up a little bit taller. And come on back down. Good. Let's come into some baby spinal twists right here. So with the arms down by your sides, just like we started before, we're going to raise the arms on an inhale, but add a little spinal twist on the exhale. So you've got your hands down here on the floor. On an inhale, take those arms, reach them up and overhead. On an exhale, gentle twist to the right as the arms come down. They're going to help hold you in this twist. Maybe the left hand reaches the right thigh, maybe the left foot, somewhere around there. Inhale, hold the twist, sit nice and tall, pull that right shoulder back a little bit more. On the exhale, maybe there's room to move into that twist to the right just a tiny bit further. Inhale, tall. Exhale, twist. And now on your inhale, come back to center. Either extend the arms forward or reach them all the way up and overhead. Exhale, take that twist over to the left side. Inhale, length through the spine. Exhale, can the shoulders rotate back a bit? Good. Inhale, tall. Maybe there's room to turn the head back a bit further. Inhale, back to center. Stretch those arms up. And exhale, releases. Check in with how things are feeling here through your upper body. Pretty good? All right. Your legs might not be comfortable anymore sitting in this cross-legged position. Let's take another position. I'm going to stay on this folded blanket because I still, in staff pose, like my hips raised. So perched on the edge of that blanket, again, it's not padding, it's not comfort, it's positional. If you could see, my sit bones are just right hanging on the edge of the blanket. That makes me feel like my hips are rolling forward. When the hips roll forward, that opens the heart, it positions the spine, keeps the natural curves of the spine. That's what we're looking for. All right, let's stretch those legs out. So it might feel good right now to give them a little shake, a little roll. They've been crossed for a little bit. I want you to test drive the idea of stretching your legs all the way out. And if this is really hard to do because of tight hamstrings, you can use a blanket rolled up under your knees. You could use something like these blocks, some books, some pillows off the couch. Grab what you've got. And if you are more comfortable with a bend in the knees, go ahead and position something to prop them up. Could be just one knee that you've got an issue with. Maybe one is propped up and one isn't. So whether you've got support under your knees or you're comfortable extending the legs all the way out, begin to press out through your heels and draw the toes back towards you. And you might look down at your feet and realize that they're angled a bit. A lot of times the pinky toes are further away from us than the big toes. Can you adjust at your ankles so that your heels are facing forward and your feet are level? If they were standing, they'd be flat on the floor. Now, are you slumping? Roll the shoulders back. Draw the low belly in and up. Sit tall. The neck is long. The spine is long. Those belly muscles are telling you that they're working here. Yeah, they're going to keep working for a little bit more. Awesome. Breathing. This is one of the most deceiving yoga poses that are out there. It looks simple enough. Just sit with your legs out in front of you. When you really engage, you properly align, things start talking to you. Yeah. So keep those low belly muscles in. What I want you to do is you can bring your fingertips to somewhere on the floor. You can rest them on your thighs. If it feels good to you, you could have something like blocks on either side of you to rest your hands. Now, you're sitting tall. Engage those belly muscles. Again, I say that a lot. Shoulders are back. Instead of coming forward in a way that feels like you need to bring your head down to your knees, what I want you to do is keep the heart lifted, keep the shoulders back, keep the head lifted, and feel like you're bringing your head and chest forward on one level plane. So you're bringing your chest forward, you're bringing your head forward, the neck still feels long, the shoulders still feel back. Look at them. Are they slouching forward? Have you crunched down through the chest? The chest should feel broad from shoulder to shoulder. The back shoulders, they're rolled back, those shoulder blades. Heart stays lifted. And over time, because we are here for a few breaths, I want you to just keep working the head and the chest forward and deepening that stretch back there through those hamstrings. You might also experience a release through the hips and through the low back. Maybe it just feels tight through there. So here's a rule of thumb when it comes to yoga. If you feel something uncomfortable, and it feels sharp, stabby, shooting, like numbness or tingling, those are signs to back out, to rearrange, reposition. If it's uncomfortable and it's that dull, achy kind of discomfort, that's the stuff you challenge yourself to sit with in yoga, with the intention being that after a few breaths, all of a sudden you realize it's let up a little bit. It might even feel like it moved to a different part of your body. That happens sometimes. Yeah, so how are you feeling? Shoulders are still back, heart still lifted, yeah? Are things starting to let go a little bit through the muscles of your legs and your hips? And again, if you had something under your legs, it would look a lot like this. So it's the same position, just easing up those hamstrings a little bit. Could even look like this and have a bigger bend in those knees, but we're still getting into that stretch. Good. You might find that you're more comfortable with your feet a bit wider apart. There's nothing wrong with that. Check in with the feet. Have they changed position? Are they still level? As soon as you stop paying attention to one part of your body, it starts to do its own thing again. Awesome. On an inhale, roll your way back up. It might feel good to put your fingertips to the floor behind you. Lift your heart, lift your chin, roll the shoulders back. Good. Notice how it feels to have stretched out through the back of the legs. Feeling all right? Sometimes a little hug of one knee in towards the chest, the other knee in towards the chest can all be good. Okay. Let's work our way onto our bellies in a position that's called Sphinx pose. So we're going to be on our elbows, And just know that if something like getting on your belly is uncomfortable, you could use something like this bolster or pillow and support your torso and your head. So you could be elevated a bit if something feels uncomfortable here. As you work your way down onto your belly, the goal is to get the elbows underneath the shoulders, just like this. Good. Let the hips rock back and forth a little bit. If this is creating too much compression in your low back, take your arms further forward. That'll allow you to lower your upper body towards the floor some more and take some of that compression out of your back. Otherwise, it's elbows under the shoulders, palms to the mat. Heart comes forward, chin lifts up, roll the shoulders back, and find your breath here. Find that yoga breath with its whispery ha sound. And then if it feels good to you, lower your body down. You can make a pillow for your head with your hands, or bring your arms down by your sides and rest your head on the floor. You might rock your hips a little bit from side to side, release any tension that you're feeling. And then come on up to your right side. You can have your knees bent a little bit here, and you're going to come up onto your right elbow. If this is hard, floor to hip, and it feels uncomfortable, put a blanket or something underneath there. Good. So let's test drive. We're working on this right hip. Can your hand reach your foot? If the answer is yes, hold the top of the foot as close to your toes as you can. If the answer is no, use your belt or your strap. You can make a loop in it. It might be a little bit easier to reach down there with a loop. And then hold that. So it's a means of making your arm a little bit longer if your hand doesn't reach. Nothing wrong with that. That bottom leg, the left leg, it can be bent for stability. And you're up on this elbow, and if that doesn't feel good, you could put a pillow or a prop underneath your arm, or you could work your way all the way down to resting your head in your hand. All right, so you're either holding with a strap around that right foot, so it's right hand, right foot, or your right hand is holding the top of the foot. From here, bring that right knee forward, so it's like you're bringing your right knee towards your chest. At the same time, pull the sole of your foot towards your bottom. So you're holding, the closer to your toes you're holding, the deeper the stretch in the front of the foot, top of the ankle, maybe even up through that shin. Yeah, so it's a little different than what you might have practiced here before. Bring the knee forward, bring it towards the chest, and keep working that foot in. Breathing. Two more breaths here. Don't let that speed up your breath. That happens every time, right? And then hold your foot. Maybe you bring your hand towards the center of the foot or hold on to that strap. And this time we sweep the foot back. So you're trying to bring that right knee as far back behind the right hip as you can. And you might feel that foot coming up a little bit further behind you. Now push the right foot into your right hand or into the strap. And let that start to stretch through the top, the front of your thigh, up through that hip. That's where a lot of us will feel this one. It might be your right shoulder if you're actively pushing that right foot. So you're trying to push the foot as far away from your back of the body as you can. Yeah, so push that foot back. Maybe there's room to scoot it back a little bit further. Still breathing. Good. And then go ahead and release on that side. Good job. I'm going to come up and over so I can still face you. You're going to turn around any way that works for you. As you set up, take all those same considerations into account, because sometimes one side of the body feels different, moves different, works different than the other one. If you need padding under the hip, add it. You can be on the right elbow, or you could prop your head, or you could wedge some pillows up underneath there if that's better for you. Knees can be bent. It's a nice stable position. And then either using your hand or the strap again, left hand to the left foot. And then hug that knee forward and pull the sole of the foot towards your bottom as much as you can, creating a stretch in the top of the foot, front of the ankle, front of the shin. Full, steady breath. And then let's bring that leg back. It moves like a pendulum, right? So the left knee comes back. Push the left foot into the left hand. If you could look back and see the V that your leg's making, you're trying to broaden the opening of that V. So you're moving the foot away from your bottom, pushing firmly into that hand. Maybe there's a stretch in the left shoulder. Maybe you're finding this in the front of the left thigh, front of the left hip. Taking your time to really pay attention to the experience on the mat. Slowing yoga down does not make it easier. Oftentimes it makes it harder. Slows the mind down. Not always an easy thing to do. Good. Full, steady breath right here. And then go ahead and release on that side. Come on back up to sitting. Good. How you feeling? We're going to move into a hands and knees position. If for any reason getting on your wrists or on your knees isn't a good idea for you, then I'll give you a seated version. We're moving into, it's actually two poses, cat and cow. They're often practiced together, and you flow between them. So as we move into this cat and cow position, and I demonstrate on hands and knees, I want to talk to you a little bit about coming onto your hands, because a lot of people avoid it because their wrists hurt. If you've had a diagnosis and you have a wrist injury or condition, there's a good reason for that to hurt. All the rest of us, our wrists hurt because A, we're poorly positioned in hands and knees, and B, we're not strong enough through our hands, our wrists, and our arms. So instead of avoiding the position, I challenge you to embrace it and gain strength. Just like you would work to build up muscles like your bicep muscles, you need to regain strength for yoga poses in your fingers, in your hands, in your wrists, all the way up the arms to the shoulders. Yeah, it's a common place for us not to have a lot of body strength. So the way that we're going to address this is when you come to hands and knees, you'll put space between your fingers, right? And then you'll actively press the hands into the floor. So I want you to press your fingertips, I want you to press all your knuckles, and I want you to press the outer edges of your hands into the floor. If you want padding under your knees, you could put a blanket underneath the knees, just not too high. Coming to your hands and knees position, put space between your fingers. Position the shoulders directly over your wrists, and now start to push the floor as if you were trying to push the floor away from you. Don't stop pushing like that. On your inhale, your belly sinks down. You raise your chin and your tailbone. So that arched position is called cow. Notice if your hands are getting relaxed. Keep pushing into the fingers and the knuckles. Exhale, round the spine, tuck the chin, tuck the pelvis. There's your cat position. Moving with your breath. Inhales, cow. Exhales, cat. And if you're waiting for a seated version of this, you guys in hands and knees, keep doing what you're doing. If you're coming to seated, you're either sitting on the floor or you're sitting on a chair with your hands on your knees. Same movement. Inhale, brings the chest and the belly forward. Roll your shoulders back. Look up. And on an exhale, draw the belly and the spine back. Feel your hips roll up as your head and your shoulders roll down. Good. Find that movement. So it's the same spinal movement, just a question of whether you're seated or you're in hands and knees. And I'll tell you, the seated version can be a really nice way to move and bring some mobility to your spine if you have a job or a hobby that has you sitting for a long time. Okay, wherever you are, hands and knees are seated, you can go ahead and stop. Come back to seated, check in with how things are feeling. All right, at this point, you will need a strap or a belt or a bath towel or anything else that's at least 6 to 8 feet long. I'm going to actually fold the strap in half because I don't need it full length quite yet. All right, so options. One is to sit down on the floor back in a cross-legged position. If it's in your practice, you'll sit down on your heels. Now, not everybody's comfortable here. Not everybody's comfortable here for very long, so you might switch halfway. Options when you're sitting on your heels. If it hurts the tops of your ankles, you can take something like a rolled yoga mat or roll up a blanket, slide that blanket under the tops of your ankles, let the feet dangle behind you. It'll take a lot of pressure off the feet and the ankles. Now, some people say that they just can't quite reach back there, and that puts a lot of pressure on the knees. So 2 things you could do. One would be to use something like a pillow or a blanket and wedge that back underneath your calves, so kind of closer to your knees, not so much heels. And then lastly, if you have a yoga block, you can use that yoga block and position it right underneath the sit bones, and that'll take a little bit of pressure off. And maybe none of those are a good choice, and this is just a bad position for you, and that would be okay too. Just find a comfortable place to sit if that's the case. This really isn't about sitting. It's about using the strap. Start off by holding the strap with about 3 feet of length between your hands. And now from here, begin to find, so I want you to keep the torso steady. Keep the head forward, keep the shoulders forward, keep the chest still, and let all this movement come from the shoulders. Notice how that feels. And then maybe you start to take that strap overhead, finding a stretch through the shoulders. Explore the full range of motion through your shoulders. If you've got an A shoulder or 2 shoulders that don't have that kind of mobility, you can keep the arms low. So explore within your range of motion. Sometimes we get in these habits, we wake up one morning and we've got this little stiffness in a shoulder, so we avoid it, and it happens again the next morning. And then before you know it, we just stop using that shoulder because we had a few days where it was stiff. So if that's the case, maybe you start to challenge the restriction. Listen to your body, don't push it. But sometimes all of a sudden you realize, wow, I had more mobility there than I realized. I just got in this habit of not using that part of my body. Good. So you're moving that strap fully. Okay, go ahead and release the strap. We're going to make a subtle shift in the position that we're in. Options with this one too. This is one of the few positions that I don't actually use a blanket to sit on. I'm going to lean over to the right a little bit, sweep my feet out so that the right leg's in front of me. If your left knee and hip allow, bring that leg back behind you like this. And if that leg's just not happy back there, what you can do is keep the right leg out in front of you and send the left leg out to the side so it's straight. And either one of these positions, you're trying to work that left hip down to the floor. So if you've got knees and ankles that are unhappy with bringing the leg back, extend it out so it looks like this. You'll still be challenged to get levelness through the hips, right? Upright through the spine. If your body's okay with it, Bring that leg back behind you. Good. And do your best to try to get a feel of your hips being level. Right now, you might be leaning to the right with that left hip raised, saying, this isn't so bad. Good. So working into it a little further, we're working on taking the spine back to being upright, vertical, and then slowly picture that left hip sinking down. How are we doing so far? Sit tall. Maybe even come back to those low belly muscles. Try to stabilize your foundation, stabilize your core. And then pick up your strap. If it has a buckle on it, hold the end with a buckle. And you're holding it in the left hand. Take the left arm up and overhead. Bend the left elbow. So now the elbow's pointing up and the hand's back behind you. And then you're going to sweep the right arm back behind you and find that strap. And then begin walking the hands towards one another. Now, if you happen to be one of those people whose hands reach behind you, you don't need the strap. You can meet fingers to fingers from hand to hand. Take a look at that elbow next to you. Is it out to the side or is it raised up next to your head? Have you changed the position of your head and neck? Can you be as upright here as possible? Breathing. Nice long spine. Elbow raised right up next to your left ear there. Try to maintain your posture. It'd be easy to get slouchy in this one. Let's not do that. Beautiful. Go ahead and release that strap. Might feel good to give the arms a little roll, a little shake. Lean over to the right. Release that left leg. Bring the right leg in front. Might feel good to give those legs a little shake. I like to give them a hug. Hug in towards the chest one at a time. Bring in any other kind of movements that help. And then what you'll do is take this over to the other side. So you're leaning a bit to the left to bring that right foot back behind you, and the left foot's in front. So the left knee's out to the left side, the left foot's right in front of you. And if the right leg is okay with taking that position back behind, keep it there. If you've got a knee or an ankle issue on this side, send that leg out next to you and still do your best to keep the left leg grounded and the right hip grounded. That's the goal here. So regardless of the way that your right leg is positioned, right hip grounded, left leg grounded. Can you get there? Start off just paying attention to those hips. Notice if you're leaning over to the left side. I agree, it doesn't feel bad when you do that. Try to bring the spine upright, weighted through that right hip. Shoulders are level, rib cage feels balanced, head feels like it's supported evenly above your shoulders. Come back to that steady breath. Okay, arm time. Keep the legs where they are. Hold the buckle with the right hand this time. Send that right arm up next to you. You might hold the back of the arm to hold it in position as you bend the right elbow, elbows aimed up, hands coming back, left hand, bring it around and find the other part of that strap. Good. Sitting tall, walk your hands towards one another. If you're like me, your body works different on one side to the other. Maybe there's a big difference in how close those hands reach back there this time. Neck's long, head's level. That right elbow up towards the ceiling as much as you can. Don't let it splay out to the side. So those are your tricep muscles you're feeling stretching in the back of that right arm. Come back to a full, steady breath here. Only feels like forever. Good. Stretch that right elbow up a tiny bit more. And release the strap. Awesome. Lean to the left, release that right foot. Stretch the legs out, give the legs a hug. Find a movement that feels good to you here. Good job. You've got your strap. We're going to work our way onto our back. I'm going to encourage you to prop the head as little as possible. That might not be something that you're accustomed to, but the fact of the matter is we don't need a pillow when we lay down. If you think about it, if you're lying on your back and you have your head raised, what if we were to take that position and stand you up? You would be standing with your head jutted forward. So a reclined position in yoga that has your head down to the floor or as close as it can get is going to encourage posture, nice posture, shoulders back, chest broad. So how we lie down supports how we stand up. With all that said, if your head needs support, if your head's not going to reach the floor, put something underneath it. Blankets, pillow, block and a blanket. Use a combination. Find what works for you. Have that strap handy. And then as you come onto your back, we all have our getting on our back routines is what I call it. So some people immediately like to hug their knees in and rock a little bit. Others will lay down and just need to stretch out through the legs. What you're doing is getting the hips positioned and bringing it up to the low back where you don't feel like you're causing any discomfort back there. The other thing that happens is people come back onto their back and their chin is jutted way up and they're compressing the back part of their neck. So sometimes getting onto your back requires tucking the chin down a little bit and lengthening the back of the neck. Good. Let's start by either bringing the hands to the knees like this. And if your hands aren't going to comfortably reach, we're going to make the arms a little longer with a strap. So you would bring the strap around your shins and hold on as close as you can reach towards one another. So you're either using the strap or you have your hands on top of your knees. Now, what happens is our hip flexors, these guys right here in the front of the hips, they're always on. Their job is to work. And what we want them to do is to become a bit more passive here. And they can not always agree with that plan. So relax your feet. Try to relax your legs. You need a good grasp. So you either need a really good grasp on that strap, holding the legs in place, or you need a good grasp on your knees. This movement is called Apanasana. So you've got these hands on the knees or hands on the strap with the arms straight. Legs are just kind of hanging out there. Find a full inhale. On an exhale, the elbows bend, the thighs come towards the chest. It's not a deep squeeze. It's a gentle movement. Inhale, arms straighten, knees lift up, feet are still just hanging out. Exhale, elbows bend, thighs towards the chest. Moving with your breath. Inhales, the hands are guiding the legs. Exhale, elbows bend. Inhale. Exhale. One more cycle. As you hug the knees in this time, hold that right knee in and bring your left foot down to the mat. Just check in with how all that feels through your back. Maybe you can give that right knee a little deeper hug towards your chest. Maybe you've got room to start stretching that left leg out a little bit more. So maybe that takes it to where there's just a little bit of a bend, or maybe you're comfortable extending that left leg all the way out. If it doesn't happen today, know if you keep practicing, you'll get closer. And then that strap, let's bring it around the right foot. You can place it around the ball of your foot, around the arch of your foot. Go with what feels good to you. And then you don't need to reach up to take your head off the mat. Relax the head and the shoulders and reach up for your strap so that you can put a little bit of tension on this. And then notice where the left leg went. Can you straighten out through the left leg any amount more? And if you look at that right knee and realize that in order to stretch the heel up, your knee is bent like this, What that means is you probably have your knee too close to your chest. So move the thigh away from your chest. All of a sudden you can straighten that leg. With a straight leg, slowly find your edge by bringing that foot a little bit higher, slowly. Level the foot, just like we did earlier when we were sitting upright in staff pose. Notice if you have a habit to tilt the ankle one way or the other. Is the big toe or the pinky toe closer to your head? Level that out. Pressing up through the right heel and pressing out through the left heel, both legs engaged. If you're not engaged that left leg, a habit that can happen is that foot and that knee just kind of roll out to the side. So really pull the back of the left thigh to the floor and press up through the right heel. Try to get this sense of a stretch that starts in the back of the knee and it stretches down those hamstrings towards the floor. And then that space behind the knee, it stretches up towards your heel through the calf. So there's this action of pulling the muscles down towards the floor, pulling the muscles up towards the ceiling. And that might feel like it opens space through the back of the knee. That can feel good. Just be careful not to injure it. Listen to the knee carefully. From here, take both sides of your strap and begin to bring this right leg out to the right side. Your body will know how far to go, and when you've gone too far, one of the first signs is that your left hip starts to lift up. So you want to feel your hips, your pelvis level here, and you're pressing out through that right foot, and the legs are both still straight, unless you're stabilizing with a bent left knee. Press out evenly through the right foot. If you're like me and have a wall in the way, scoot a little further from the wall so you're really finding your edge. Where do you need to be? Placing the left hand on the left hip is a reminder that we want to keep the pelvis level. Some people extend that left arm out to the floor for a similar kind of reminder. And then on an inhale, bring this right leg back up to center. Take the straps to the left hand, weight the right side of your bottom, and then begin to cross over the midline. This is an entirely different position than when you roll your hips all the way up and over. That's a spinal twist. I'm looking to target the outer hips and outer thigh here. We'll get to a twist a little bit later. So you don't need to go very far if you're taking the time to really weight the right side of your bottom down to the floor. The leg is still straight, the foot is still level, and you're slowly crossing the midline, being careful not to let that leg drip down like this. That's what I see happen a lot, is it drops down. So where you started, the angle of that leg, we want to maintain that as the leg crosses over the midline. If you went half an inch and your hip started to talk to you, you're in the right place. Don't force it. And then inhale that leg back up to center and release that strap. Good. Bend the knees. It might feel good to straighten out through that leg. Might feel good to hug the other one in a little bit. Find any kind of movement that feels good to you. Maybe that's drawing the knees in and rocking a little bit from side to side. And then we'll place the right foot on the floor. Take your time. You can catch up. Strap comes around the left foot. Ball of the foot or around the arch, the center of the foot, your choice. Check in with this leg. Now here's the thing, asymmetrical yoga poses, our bodies look and feel so different sometimes from one side to the other, so it's important for you to realize that and to always start on a clean slate side too. So we'll press out through that thigh, make sure we can get a straight leg. Remember, if the knee's bent, it's probably because the thigh's too far in. Move the thigh away, straighten through the leg, and then adjust. The right leg, it can be bent, it can be much straighter, or maybe you're comfortable extending it all the way out on the mat. Listen to your body. You need to practice your yoga. The foot's level, the leg's straight. Good. Breathing into that stretch. Notice how the second side feels with an open mind. Don't expect it to mirror the first side. It rarely does. And then if you're picturing that space again, picture a circle in the back of the knee. Maybe you can start feeling that stretch move from the knee down towards the floor, down those hamstring muscles, down towards the sit bone. Feel that stretch downward through the hamstring muscles. And at the same time, can you find the stretch traveling from behind the knee up the calf towards the heel? Again, that might be inviting in a sense of openness behind the knee, but be sensitive to anything that you would label pain. Not the same thing. Breathing into that stretch. Remember the right leg on the floor. Bring that thigh closer to the floor if you can. Press out through the right heel. The toes and the knee of the right leg, they're pointing straight up. And then bring both sides of the strap to the left hand. Sense the weight in the right hip, levelness through the pelvis, and then start to bring that left leg out. And again, when you feel the right hip raising, can you see what that looks like? That means you're gone too far. You're just holding one position and rocking through the pelvis. So come back up, level the hips. Notice what weighted feels like. You can feel it all the way through that right leg. And then notice how far out this leg is going to go and still maintain level hips. Press out through the left foot. Still level foot, right? Imagine you were pushing that foot right into a wall. Engage those muscles. Full steady breath here. And then inhale that leg back up. Take the strap to the right hand. Take a moment. Don't rush into this one. Weight the left hip. And then start to take that left leg a bit across the midline. Many of us don't need to go more than an inch or two. Maybe you'll notice one side is a lot more mobile here than the other. But I want you to be focused in this outer hip, outer thigh area. Again, it's not a spinal twist. Whole different position. We're coming to those. Breathing into that outer hip stretch here. Inhale that leg back up to center. Good. Release the strap. Bring some movement back into your body. That could rock you a bit. Could circle those legs. Find what feels good to you here. You can stay where you are. As we come into a spinal twist, I want you to hug the knees in towards your chest and then roll to the right side. So we want the right leg to be out here on the floor. So what some people will do sometimes is bring their feet back down because the back doesn't feel stable to do this, and they'll do this, not where we're going. So if your back doesn't feel stable, or we discover some alignment issues as we talk about this, you'll hug the knees in and roll your body over. It's okay for the left shoulder to come off the floor. So you want to get to the position where you're lying on your side, where your left hip is on top of the right hip, your left knee's on top of the right knee, and your ankles are stacked. So actually look, because can you see where this knee is and this knee is? That's not stacked. So bring that left hip forward so that you do have stacked hips, knees, and ankles. You're lying on this right shoulder, so now the left arm, it's going to start reaching back, but pay attention to what it's doing to the knees. If the action of bringing the shoulder back brings the whole side back and unstacks your legs, you've now created a possible situation of torquing and creating some unnecessary tension through the low back instead of a nice stretch. So you'd roll forward, stack the legs, keep them as stacked as you can. Maybe you bring the knees a little closer to the chest, and don't expect that left arm to necessarily reach the floor right away. You could have some blocks underneath it. You could have a pillow or a bolster underneath it. Or if it's comfortable, just letting that arm hover behind you for a shoulder stretch. That's okay too, as long as it doesn't feel like it's hurting you. And then when you get here, check in with those legs one more time. And what you'll notice is if you're on your right side, the more you turn your head to the right, the more gentle this twist feels. So you've got this little micro adjustment by bringing the head up to center or even beginning to turn it to look back over your left shoulder. Send that left arm back behind you and take the head in the neck position that feels safe to your neck. When you get there, close your eyes. Breathing fully and balanced. Maybe you picture inhales traveling right into any places in your hips or back or shoulder that's giving you some feedback. Maybe after these first several breaths here, you start to notice things releasing, letting go a little bit. And then on your next inhale, slowly roll your way onto your back. Might feel good to rock a little bit from side to side. From here, you can just begin to draw the knees in and roll to the left. I'm going to scoot a little bit. Knees come in. Body rolls to the left. You're unstacking the hips, the knees, and the ankles. That's going to raise that right shoulder up. And then as you get the legs in position, start to bring that left shoulder back. So maybe it looks something like this, where your arm's just kind of hovering. If that hurts your shoulder or your elbow or a wrist, you can bring some support. The support might look like that underneath an arm, or it might look like that underneath the shoulder blade. If it doesn't hurt, there's benefits to letting that arm just kind of hover back there behind you, because over time, as things start to lengthen and release and muscles stretch, check in with those legs being stacked. And just allow things to start to release and settle into this position. Remember, the more the head turns to the left, the more gentle the pose feels. Upright or to the right. Begin to intensify. Closing your eyes. And then slowly work back onto your back. feels good to you, you can hug your knees or rock a little bit from side to side. Next, we're going to come into Shavasana. The most tempting pose to skip at home, don't. It's not a lot of value in your practice. There's a lot of reasons that we practice Shavasana. It's your final resting pose of your practice. So if you've got the mobility in your hips where it's okay to stretch your legs out, put a little space between your feet, you'll do that. But I'll tell you, a lot of people feel this in their hips and their low back pretty quickly and they get cranky. So if you've got a cranky back here, if you've got unhappy hips, don't do that because this is supposed to feel restful. So if you've got a blanket or a bolster or pillows that you could put under your knees so your knees are supported, you can do that. You could also take your feet wide and let your knees and thighs rest in on one another. You want to relax your upper body, so maybe that turns your head a little bit from side to side. Relax your shoulders, let your arms and your legs roll a bit until everything settles into a place that feels comfortable to you. Close your eyes. If you had an eye pillow, you could put it over your eyes. If you're cool, cover with a blanket. So give yourself some time to really address everything that's required to get comfortable here. Closing your eyes and settling in. And tune back into your breath, noticing your inhale, exhale. Invite some movement back in your body. That might wiggle your fingers and your toes, move through your arms and legs a little bit. Just check in with how things are feeling here. Might feel good to hug one knee or two knees in at a time. You rock a little from side to side. Traditionally, the way of coming out of this pose is that you roll to one side, take a side lying position, and rest here for a few breaths. And then the hand of the upper arm, you push that into the floor. So let it feel like your ribs, your upper ribs are the first thing to lift. Keep the head down. And just slowly, carefully roll your way back up to seated. If that has you sitting up on a blanket or something else to get comfortable, go ahead and do that. Take a moment to bring your hands together at heart center. Feel silent, feel still, feel present. Thank you for making me a part of your yoga today. Namaste. Great job. I hope you feel good today.